Can you tell us about yourself, your professional background, and your connection to Delta County?
Yeah, I actually was born and raised here in Delta County. Right after graduation, entered the military. I spent 23 years in the U.S. Army, retired after 23 years of service, and then of course moved back here to Delta County. Right after moving back, it was a matter of just getting re-involved in a lot of volunteer organizations throughout the community. And during that time, in 23 years, you develop a lot of experience, and it gives you a good ability moving forward. Like as a county commissioner, you're used to working with people from all over. In fact, of course, while you're in the military, it's people from all over the country, not just your community. So to be able to hear what their issue or their problem is and put yourself in their position to understand their point of view is really important. And I have that ability already. I've had lots of practice doing that.
And in your opinion, what are the most important roles of a county commissioner?
Well, obviously it's going to, you're the fiduciary. You oversee the overall, I guess you could say, operation. You have a manager that takes care of all your day-to-day stuff, but you're still the ones that bring the rest of that together, whether it's through the various committees, for the departments, etc. That you're that focal point. You're that continuity.
You meet somebody from out of town. They're thinking about moving to Delta County. They don't know too much about the area. How do you describe to them? What are the positives, negatives?
Well, one of them I would show is, look at what we have to offer already, and we do have a lot of things to offer, and that's one of the things that I will continue to strive for, is to make Delta County a destination. Give people that are coming in a place to stop. Give them a reason to stop, whether it's our museums, and we have several. We have, our trail system. I mean, there's parts where, especially as you go east in Delta County, that the start of those trail systems will actually let you connect, not just for summer months, but winter months, to places all over the UP. So we actually have, assets that are already there to be able to help people say, hey, look at all the things you can do here.
And is there anything about,
I'm just checking the focus. You're good.
Anything about the area you would like to see change?
One of them I'd like to see is like where our county forest is. I think that's an untapped resource for us. And the original intent was also to make something that was a sustainable source of revenue, periodically, the size and the original plan for the county. But the area that's up there is still really untapped. So, whether it's literally a wilderness type campground where, there's no power, none of that. It's like your tent camping, reestablishing additional trails in there, whether they're motorized or non-motorized, that gives you the ability again to be able to start to connect to other places throughout the UP.
And if elected, what would be your top priorities, and do you see large or substantial challenges in accomplishing those goals?
One of the first ones, and this is no secret for those that know me, is to make sure that the Veteran Service Office that we have is actually funded adequately. And there's been an advisory committee that's been on the books forever, since it was first formed, and that's never been staffed. And that'll be one of the first things that I definitely make sure happens, is that committee or advisory council is formed and staffed, even going forward. Now, up until one of my very first interviews, you wouldn't hear anything out of the board, and all of a sudden, overnight, the board says, well, you're our top priority. And well, that's pretty disingenuous to our veteran demographic. And Delta County has about a 10% of their total population is veteran. So it's not small, and we have one individual that services all those individuals. That's a lot for one person. And when I look at it, it's a perfect, and Dave does an amazing job, but it's a one-stop shop for them to start their process. Whether it's a new individual getting out of the military, maybe it's somebody that's been out, and has been in the system with VA and has a issue that's since gotten worse, that's a place to go to find out, how do I start the next process? Or even, if when family members pass away, the veteran may know the process, but the family may not necessarily know the process and what's available for them through the VA. So that would be the place that they would go to. So he has a lot of functions.
And as a veteran, you probably know others in the area. Have you heard any complaints or criticisms from them? Anything they wish was there but isn't because that advisory committee isn't there
The advisory committee actually will be a better interface between our BSO and obviously the board then. That'll be one of those. I know the board recently voted for to look at the language to have a 0.1 mil added in the general election in November. But again, it's one of those that if you look back, they've had how many years to fund this, and then all of a sudden now when they can't find funding, that they decide they want to put a 0.1 mil out there for the public to decide. When you look at that versus the other issues, I haven't gotten specific input from various veterans to know that that there are individual needs being unmet. I just know what the workload is for the one individual that's doing it, and versus how many individuals we have in the county. It's not very proportional, let's put it that way.
And going back to the original reason for this recall, it seemed to have expanded quite a bit to a number of issues.
Mm-hmm.
But the stated reason on the recall is the firing of Emily DeSalvo, who in the February 7 meeting, right beforehand, had accused Commissioners Moyle, Barron, and Peterson of unethical behavior or acting in their best interests as opposed to what's best for the county. What is your response to her allegations, and what is your interpretation of her firing?
And you're asking for whose interpretation?
Yours.
Okay. Yeah, that was the push for me to get involved with the recall. If I look at it from my standpoint, if I have somebody, in this case that we've hired to be our manager, and they say, hey, we shouldn't be paying this because there's legal and ethical issues involved in it, as a board member, I'm going to take that step back and say, okay, we need to look at this. And why? Well, the why has now since been answered for everybody, for the most part, and where that stems from. Not fire your manager right out because they're telling you have an issue.
Could you elaborate more on that? You said not pay this?
It was a bill. It was a bill that they requested be paid, my understanding, to the Soil and Water Conservation District.
And do you have any more thoughts about the overall allegations of unethical behavior? Is it just that one example that stands out to you? I suppose, to my understanding, she gave, I believe, an 11-minute speech that covered some ground.
As far as what she viewed as specific allegations, I think some of those you're going to definitely start to see become very valid. Exactly what she said will definitely start to, I think, come to light here in the future. It's one of those, it's every person has their day in court and they're innocent until proven guilty. So for me to speculate, on what specifically she brought up, I don't know that that's definitely my place without having all those facts available.
That's fair. Since then, and maybe even beforehand, the community has become relatively divided, seemingly. How do you think you can bring people back together? Do you think that's the responsibility of a commissioner?
Part of it is, if you want to start to create an environment that's always divisive, that's what you're going to have. And again, that goes back to actually being a good leader. You'll find the parts that are common between both of those interests to have that common ground. Now you can actually complete, whether it's a goal or a task or whatever you're looking for specifically to get to. But you have to be able to find that common area first and not try to divide that to begin with.
And anything else you want to share with the community about your candidacy?
With my background that I currently have, both in the military and then as a prior elected official, I think I'm very qualified, in fact more so than what my opponent is, to be the county commissioner for District 5.
Anything else you want to touch on?
I would encourage everybody, I know it's not a normal election cycle, it is a special election, but definitely on May 7th, if they haven't done an absentee ballot already, and if you have, fill that out and get it in, but if not, definitely turn out on May 7th and vote.
Gotcha. All right, thanks, Matt.
Thank you.